why is it that we never actually get hit? And that's not a bad thing,
No,
right? Not that we're complaining.
No, that's a fair question.
But what is it that causes, like, sometimes it feels like the valley is, like, sheltered, and if you go online, you'll see people saying, like, it's the aliens that are protecting us.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you, is that alien thing they dropped in
Yes.
South Mexico that blocks them all. And clearly that's what it is. But...
All right, guys. So good morning or good afternoon. I mean, you're seeing this, so there's not really much of a need, for the type of introductions we usually do. But we will because he deserves it. Today, we are spending some time with the World Valley famous Mr. Tim Smith, Chief Meteorologist at KRGV Channel 5. So thanks for being here, Tim.
What a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the chance to be with you guys.
Yeah, man, when he knocked on the door, I was like, that sounds like this is Tim Smith.
Sound like a weather knock?
Yeah, it sounded, it was either you or my brother. And I knew it wasn't my brother. I was like, oh man.
Well, we have a secret.
Gotta get started.
We have a secret knock that, now you know what it is.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
So, this is an episode that I got requested a lot, like even like on Reddit and different places, like, you gotta do Tim Smith, you gotta ask him where Mercedes is, and just stuff like that, which I'm sure you've been asked before.
A couple times,
to say the least. But I was excited for this one because, I mean, we all know who you are, obviously, right? So everybody watches Channel 5.
Thank
right?
you for that.
Everybody watches Channel 5, and a lot of us have grown up with you. I mean, I have, because, I'm young enough, but even those who haven't at this point, you're just a staple. And when I started this podcast, just to kind of go back and what we're doing, it's all about like what makes the Valley great, or talking to people that are notable. And when I was kind of putting this down to paper, and I thought about who are the faces of the Valley, you're one of them. If not, you are the face of the Valley. Like, honestly, you can't think of too many other people.
Well, you do something long enough,
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody that's done something for 40 years, in one place, that matters, it adds up.
For sure.
For better or for worse, it adds up.
Well, this is for the better. Well, but I was thinking, I was like, so we all know who Tim Smith is, but then I thought a little bit deeper, but how much about him do we really know? Like, how many of us have gotten to meet him, have gotten to know him? My guess is not very many people, as far as like, on a personal basis. So this is kind of a good chance to kind of like just pick his brain, right? The Valley wants to know who their number one, favorite weatherman is. So I'm going to start off asking you just a very general question. Okay. It can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Okay.
Who is Tim Smith? Tell us about yourself.
Just an old guy that's been doing weather a long time. And that's really, it just, I got lucky, when I was 22 years old, and I knew I wanted to be in television. I wanted to be a reporter, a journalist. That's what I went to school for, and weather was kind of a hobby. But when I had the opportunity to become a reporter, they said, well, but you have to do weather on the weekends. Perfect, so landed at a great television station with great ownership, great management. Rick Diaz was the news director, used to be the anchor, of course, as well. And he gave me a chance. And, this, afro-headed, fast, funny-talking kid from Indiana, he gave a chance to come to South Texas. And I just got lucky, just blessed to land in a good place, a good job. And been fortunate to do it ever since. Once I started doing weather on the weekends, I realized this is what I want to do. So I went back to school and became a meteorologist. And just have been just fortunate that I landed in a great place. And awesome. So just happened to have a job that I love in a place that I fell in love with the people and the golf and the food and the ocean, and just amazingly lucky and really blessed to be doing this for so long.
So I got a couple questions out of that. First of all, did you say you're afro-headed?
Yeah.
You had an afro when you came down?
If you look on my Facebook page, it's there. You can look on a lot of Facebook pages, because once I posted something years ago, somebody else will grab it and share it, and it goes viral, But oh yeah, I was 4 inches taller when my hair was fully grown out. Let's call it.
So the first newscast with Tim Smith in the Valley, was that with an afro?
Yes, it wasn't that big by then. I trimmed it back for television.
For TV.
And when I was doing weekends, they kind of let it go. But when they moved me from weekends to weekdays, which was, I've been here a little over a year, and the guy before me retired. So they gave me the chance to do weekdays, but they said, we got to make a couple little changes. I said, okay, do what you got to do. You know, I'm excited. I'm now 23 years old. I'm going to become the chief forecaster. And it's like, what an opportunity. Do what you want to do. You know, whatever it takes. And so they sent me to the consultants. Our consultants are Frank Magid Associates in Iowa. So anybody in the industry very familiar with them. So they sent me up there for coaching. And so there, get there at night. The next morning, they pick me up, take me to their office, and we spend 4 hours in intense coaching, just here, practicing in front of the green screen and doing this.
Oh, like newscast coaching?
Okay. And then the time for lunch, we went out, and they pulled up to this place that didn't look like a restaurant, but, I'm in the middle of Iowa, what do I know,
Yeah.
where Frank Magid's located. And we walked inside, there was a hair salon and not a restaurant. And the consultants just told the hairstylist, do something with him, we'll be back in 2 hours. And so they left. They left me at the hair salon. And I went from having a decent sized afro to having shorter than my hair is now. Considerably shorter than it is now.
So from that day on?
From that day on, it was a lot more conservative. When I flew back to the Valley, after that, came back 2 days later or something after more coaching and actually eating at real restaurants instead of hair salons. I got off the plane and walked right past my wife. She didn't recognize me.
She didn't know?
No. I didn't tell her I had my haircut. That was before cell phones, and so we didn't talk until I got back. And I walked right past her at the airport. And she's like, but she did, it was funny. Pretty significant change.
Wow. But she didn't know that you were that was part of the plan, right? Like to do.
I didn't know that was part of the plan. I just knew that they were going to coach. I didn't know they were going to work on appearance as well.
It was like surprise.
Yes, exactly. So, but it's changed for the better. You've got to be a little more conservative in this end of the business.
I see.
I couldn't be on TV with a ponytail either,
Yeah.
I couldn't grow one, but I could always grow it back out. So still lucky enough to have it,
Well, you got the seniority for it. Probably, right? Yeah. So I guess I kind of have to backtrack a little bit there then.
Okay.
Because first of all, you mentioned that Rick Diaz is one that brought you on, so thank you, Mr. Rick Diaz. We know he's watching this, so he kind of made the magic happen.
Oh, he did. Rick is amazing. He gave so many people their opportunity in this industry because, back then we were the 144th market in the country. The nation's broken down into about 250 or so television markets. The biggest is number 1, New York, then Los Angeles and Chicago. And at the time we were about number 144. Laredo was 199, so the Valley was a small market. Now we're in the 70s, we've grown significantly. Wow. But when you mark at 144, you're hiring kids right out of college. And that was pretty much me. I worked in radio for a few months, but after I graduated, but he's hiring people and giving them their first chance in the business and giving a lot of people their breaks in the business. People like Polo Sandoval and Will Ripley and Medevia.
He brought them all?
He's been part of that.
He's like a scouting legend.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. And so many people have gotten a chance because of him. And he's the one that hired me sight unseen other than a videotape that I sent him, saying, wow. Sure, I could do weather, which I, had never done before. So.
Well, you say yes to everything, right?
Well, yeah.
Of course.
I'll try it, little did I know that here we are 42 years later, still doing it. But and Rick is, I owe the world to Rick, and he's just an amazing guy.
Okay. So the thing that I wanted to backtrack to is you mentioned growing up in Indiana, and all of a sudden Mr. Rick Diaz hires you down in South Texas at the U.S.-Mexico border. There's a bit of a distance there.
Yeah, 1,500 miles to be exact.
So how did that happen? Like, how did you discover the Valley?
That's a great question. I went to Indiana University, and one of my friends, students that I was good friends with, was a student named Jenny Grislak. And Jenny, she and I worked together on campus at a sound effects laboratory, which was really cool. Where students would come in and pick out sound effects for radio dramas and stuff.
For real stuff?
Yeah. So we worked in the sound effects laboratory. We took broadcast law together. So we were just good friends. And the last semester of our senior year, she came to the Valley to do an internship at Texas Rural Legal Aid. What that had to do with broadcasting, I have no idea. But she took a job at TRLA in Weslaco, just an internship. And at the end of the internship, she decided she was ready to get in TV. And so right before graduation, she got a job at KRGV because she was already in the Valley with this internship that she had taken and decided to work at KRGV. And then she came back for graduation in May and said, this is pretty cool. You should check this out. And I wasn't ready to move 50. I'm graduating and I'm going to find a job in Indianapolis, the 30th market in the country, and, that doesn't happen. You just don't do that. You don't start at market 30. You start at market 150, 140. So I went back and worked in my hometown for a while, radio station in my hometown. It just did news and was DJ and did everything.
Not on camera.
No, it was all radio.
Okay.
At radio.
Oh, radio station.
You know, Radio Batesville, WRBI, and worked there. And the whole time I was there, Jenny would call, say, "Hey, you got an opening. You should apply. You got an opening. You should apply." So finally, I did. And that's when I sent my just a video of my reporting at our college station, at our college TV station, and sent it to Rick Diaz, and he called and he said, "We've got an opening for a reporter, but you have to do weather on the weekends." And I said, "That's perfect." So they said, "You got to send me a tape of you doing weather." I said, "Well, how am I going to do that?" I mean, this is before we had, cameras on our cell phone. This is before video cameras, really. Yeah. Nobody had a video camera. That was TV stations. That was it, But I had a friend who was working at a hospital, running the TV station in the hospital. Hospitals actually had, they played bingo on the hospital television, the closed circuit TV through the hospital.
Like for the hospital?
For patients.
I'm a patient in room 70
yes.
and I want to watch bingo.
You watch bingo, so they're doing bingo in the basement of the hospital. So I called him and said, "Hey, I need to record me doing the weather. Can you help?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." So I drew weather maps on poster board, traced them off of road maps just to trace it out, the size of a poster board. Took the highs and lows and the cold fronts and warm fronts based on the map in the newspaper and drew them on there. And then took a map of the state of Indiana and a map of the United States and drove to Indianapolis, which is about an hour away. And we went to the basement of the hospital. He only had one easel. So we put the map of the United States up on the easel, stood in front of it and pointed out the highs and lows. Wasn't sure what they meant. I knew about weather, but not in that respect. I knew clouds, I knew rain, but I didn't understand the inner workings of it. And then, so I would talk about the United States, and we stopped, moved the easel over here, put the Indiana map on it, and then added Indiana. We edited it together. And I sent it to him, and he said, he had no more questions. He said, "You came up with a way to do weather on camera, found the resources to do it. If you want the job, it's yours." Wow. And so I'd never seen about it, didn't know where it was. So all I know was the station was in some place called West Laco, Texas. So, is there a lake there? West Laco? What is it? It was West Laco, of course.
Yeah.
So that was December of 1981.
1981.
1981.
Okay. That's when you got the job?
That's when I got the job. Started Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So immediately?
Yeah. I moved, actually I got here Christmas Eve. I started the day after Christmas.
So, and how long did it take you to go from reporter to I know you said pretty soon after that you became the lead weathercaster, but because you said you went back to school, right, here in the Valley?
I went to first to Penn State University. Back then it was distance learning, online learning, where they'd send you, the books and the tests, and you had to have it proctored, and if you took a test, somebody had to watch you take the test, So I did Penn State. I did something called Weather Scan, School of Broadcast Meteorology in Oklahoma City. Actually went up there. And then after that, Mississippi State University. And that's where I finished my broadcast meteorology training. And initially it was right away. As soon as I became, the lead forecaster, I went to Weather Scan first, and then to Penn State, and then a couple of years after that, I ended up at Mississippi State.
And the whole time you're doing the weather?
Yeah, doing the weather the whole time.
Are you still a reporter during that time?
When I was doing weekend weather, I was a reporter. Yes, so I reported 3 days a week. Serious news, and on the weekend did weather. And he said, so we'll pay you this much to do news and this much to do weather. I said, "Looks like rain. Let's get to work."
Yeah, that's true. So. I mean, I guess there was what was the motivation to go back to school? Like, why did you want to become the meteorologist? Because you said you went to school for journalism. Like,
right.
Meteorology was not on your radar.
Well, I like weather. You
said it was your hobby.
As
right?
a kid, yeah, we had the thermometer and rain gauge at the house, and and we'd watch it closely, and it was what it was. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't even consider it a career in that. At Indiana University, where I went to school, there's not a meteorology school, and it was never even a consideration in the broadcast school or in the journalism school. Meteorology was not really something you even thought about. But once I had this opportunity, I thought, well, this is kind of cool, because this is a hobby, and I can combine my passion for weather with just reporting it, basically. So I'm a journalist, a weather journalist. It's like, this is cool. It's best of both worlds. And I miss being out in the field sometimes, because I'm in the air-conditioned studio all day, which is kind of nice. But I do miss being out, in the public, meeting people and doing that kind of stuff. But no, it just I decided if I wanted to do it, I don't need to understand what I'm doing. And because my degree is not in meteorology, my first degree is in journalism, I need to go back to school so I can understand it. And I had the benefit of, we were and still are a client of AccuWeather, which is a private forecasting company in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we talked to them. I talked to them every single day. And my initial education was from them. Just every day talking about the valley's weather, every single day. Usually twice a day, we talk about the weather. And I learned a lot really fast because of them. And that was not an official degree program. That's just talking weather every day.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot fast. And then I went back to school. So yeah.
Wow. And was it hard talking weather with someone who's from such a different area? Is it always, because like the people in this room, that we've all always lived in the valley, but we know that like the weather in Texas and then the weather in the valley is so different, right? Like it's what do you think about that? Like,
well, we're a unique place, like any place. You can go anywhere in the country, and they've got the saying that if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. And we say that here. They say that in Dallas. They say that in Indiana. They say that in Florida. They say that everywhere. Everybody says that, and there's some truth in that. Weather changes. That's what it does. The thing that fascinated me about here is hurricanes, because we don't have those in Indiana. The funny thing was, the guy that I talked to at AccuWeather every day for years was a guy named Dan Kotlowski, who was from about an hour away from where I grew up. He grew up in Indiana also. So we knew each other's high schools. And he's about 5 years older than me. And he went to Purdue and I went to Indiana, and that's like Texas and Texas A&M, big rivals.
Yeah.
But because of that, we connected immediately. And so he took me under his wing. He really taught me a lot. But it was all about valley weather. We never talked about Indiana. We talked about valley weather. And he was an expert. And so I learned a lot from him. Even though he went to Purdue, he was a pretty smart guy.
Even though he went there.
Even though, yeah.
In case he's listening, right?
Yeah. I talked to a guy from Purdue the other day. His first question was, "You want fries with that?"
Oh my god.
The joke is like Texas A&M.
Yeah, you gotta mess around with it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Do the people like where you're from, do they know how big you've gotten here? Like, do you get a sense of that?
It's relative. I've been blessed. I have an aunt who's, gosh, I'm not gonna say how old she is, but she's older than me by a fair amount, that writes for a newspaper in our neighboring community. I grew up in the town of Batesville. There was about 3,500 people when I lived there. And about 15 miles up the road where my dad was from was a town of Greensburg. And a little bigger town, daily newspaper, radio station, the whole thing. And my aunt, my dad's sister-in-law, still writes a column for the Greensburg Daily News, which everybody in Batesville reads. That's the nearest daily newspaper. So everybody in Batesville reads it. So she has done 2 or 3 features over the years. She'll call and we'll talk, or she'll send me questions through Facebook even. She's on Facebook every day.
So she sees like.
So she sees, and
growth.
she watches, yes.
Yeah.
And so she's done a couple of stories over the years, which is pretty cool. But it's not like there's a sign that says "Home of." It's not like that. With that goodness, it's not like that. There's plenty of other people who have done wonderful things from that town. So
from your hometown.
Yeah.
You get to like connect with them.
Occasionally, I go back to Indiana at least once a year. But I'm usually not in Batesville. I'm in Bloomington, which is about where I went to school. But that's also where my brother lives. So we go to Bloomington, and I stay at his house. Spend time there.
So you've been doing this 40 years, right? You said you go
42 and a half. Yeah.
42 and a half. It counts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rick Diaz.
Yes, thank you.
So you go back to Indiana once a year. What has kept you in the valley?
Well, the weather. Obvious answer. The weather, which implies the job, the actual weather, tropical weather. I love tropical weather. If there's any type of weather that I'm pretty good at, it would be tropical weather. Hurricanes, tropical storms. That's the one thing that I've really spent most of my career studying. So I'm much better at forecasting a hurricane than snow.
Okay.
Because we only forecast it 2 or 3 times in 40 years. It's hard to get good at it.
That's true.
But when you forecast hurricanes, you're talking about them there's a lot more opportunity. And I run a conference on the island that is tropical weather. So, kind of hot and heavy into it. So that's important. And then just, I love the valley. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the food. My gosh.
Yeah.
I go home and there's a couple things I miss about the food from home, but there's a lot more things I miss about the food from here. It's such good food, and the people are so wonderful and so welcoming, and I think in our industry, in my industry, we see a lot of people come from somewhere else, just like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And most stay 2 or 3 years and leave. But the ones who are accepted the most by the valley, are the people who accept the valley. You know, if you come from Indiana like I did, it's easy to come in and go, this is weird. This is not the way I grew up, you know. But if you move to Indiana, you do the same thing. It's like, this is not the way I grew up. I mean, it's just, but if you say, this is weird, but I love it, and you embrace it, embrace the culture, wherever you go, I believe wherever you go, there you are. You know, you either embrace the culture or you reject the culture. And I think you have to embrace it. And so as soon as I got here, embrace the culture. This is wonderful. And
it was easy to embrace.
Oh, so easy, yeah. But there are others who come in and just the whole time they're here, they stick to themselves. They hang out with people that are not from the valley, and they stay in their own little clique, and they're not really ever happy. And when their 3-year contract is up, boom, they're gone. And those are people who leave, and people in the valley go, "Who was that? You know, I didn't even know that person." Where if you come in, you embrace like Will Ripley did, you know, who came in and just loved the valley, and so people still talk about Will. You know Will. Will's been gone for, I don't know, 10 years at least. He's been gone.
People still pay attention to where he's at. He's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he came in and embraced the valley, embraced the culture, and that makes a difference. I believe that's what you should do wherever you go. You can come in and go, this isn't for me, but you know, but I've never felt that way.
Yeah.
It was easy to embrace. It was easy.
You embrace the challenge of, but I mean, I guess, but it seems like it's been, I mean, of course, everything seems to be easy, right, when you're seeing it from a distance, but I mean, it's just obvious to see how the valley kind of just like rallied around you, like embraced. And that's funny because, I mean, of course, I'm sure you get your hecklers, right? Like,
always.
Like, why do you lie to us every day? And all this, like, as far as like the forecast. That's not your fault, by the way. That like you said, maybe they say it everywhere, but like our weather really is. I feel like it'd be super hard to predict, man, because it's tropical and there's always like these lows and these highs going. Now, I wanted to ask. Well, I was asked to ask you this question, but I'm thinking about it now. I want to ask you this first. Would you say, like in your, I guess in your opinion, in your experience, do we get a lot of hurricanes?
A lot, no.
Okay.
You know, we're impacted by them. You know, we had Beryl. I call it. I don't say it was a near miss. I say it was a grazing. It was not a miss. We got some pretty good rain, some pretty good wind at the coast, and a little bit of rain inland. So it wasn't a miss. It was a grazing. You know, we had a small impact, but not a huge impact. And you know, and prior to Beryl, you have to go back to Hannah in 2020, so it's been 4 years. Prior to that, back to Dolly in 2008, so it was a number of years, you know, back to that. Prior to Dolly, 1999, Brett. Prior to Brett, you have to go back almost all the way back to Allen, really, which is 1980. So a lot, I mean, you go on every 10, 15 years, I guess that's a lot, I don't know. But on average, you know, we're about 10 years between, and we haven't had a major hurricane, Cat 3 or bigger, since Allen, 1980.
Since 80.
So it's been 44 years since we've had a major hit.
So it's kind of a no then, right? Like we don't, because like as far as like direct hits, like so okay, because this is what I've been like asked to ask. Like, what is it that like why is it that the valley always like I guess in the community's mind we always feel like we're about to get hit and then something happens. Like why do we get the feeling? Because it kind of gives birth to that whole saying like, oh, you see, like we never get it, like, oh, like this happens every year, or like, you know, they always say they will, or like you laugh at the people that are boarding up, you know, because you don't need to, basically. I guess because of the experience that we have, that there's always like near misses. But I guess I'll just ask the question, like, why is it that we never actually get hit? And that's not a bad thing, right? Not that we're complaining.
No, that's a fair question.
But what is it that causes, like, sometimes it feels like the valley is like sheltered. And if you go online, you'll see people saying like it's the aliens that are protecting us.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. It's that alien thing they dropped
yes.
ago that blocks them all. Clearly, that's what it is. But you know, and it's a fair question. And most of the country has the same experience. Most, not all. You know, again, it's been 44 years since we've had a major hurricane make a direct hit. But we've had impact since then. You know, Gilbert in '88, and again, Brett in '99, Dolly, Hannah. Even Beryl, a near miss.
There was an Emily, like in 05.
Emily in 05. And, you know, in 05 we thought, you know, this is going to be the talk of the year, Emily. But then along came Katrina. And shortly after that, Rita in New Orleans and Houston, so hard hit.
So why is it? Why is it that we always feel like...
And you know, you look at Tampa, and there's a belief there that the ancient Indian burial grounds are sacred. And hurricanes won't hit there because of that. And people believe that. And there's a in this conference that I do on the island every year. That's the National Tropical Weather Conference. I'm one of the organizers, and I help run it. One of the speakers one year said it turned out to be kind of a joke in the long run. But he said, people would say, I've lived here 40 years and hurricanes never hit. Clearly, hurricanes don't hit here. It's like, well, but if you look back 50 years ago, a major hurricane hit. And then 62 years ago, a major hurricane hit. And for us, because I've lived here 42 years. I've lived here 42 years. We've never been hit by a major hurricane. Clearly, major hurricanes don't hit here. That's not true. My sample size is 42 years, but if you go back 44 years, we had Allen. You go back to 1967, we had Beulah. Which was, that's our benchmark storm that was massive and caused incredible flooding, incredible amount of damage. Prior to that, you have to go back to 1954, a hurricane that filled Falcon Lake, which had just been built. They got this empty new lake bed, and it's going to take 2 years to fill it. And Hurricane Alice went up into the watershed, dropped enough rain to fill the lake in about 2 weeks. It's supposed to take 2 to 3 years of normal flow to fill it. But so our experience is short. And, people who have lived here their whole lives, 30 years, we've never had a major hurricane. Clearly they don't hit here. But the reality is they do. You just have to have a longer sense of history.
So just a good run for us.
Yeah. And it will, again,
It's not the aliens, I guess.
Well, I guess not. I mean,
do people ask you about that?
Of course, of course. Yeah. And it is what it is. But there's no magic about it. It's just patterns are patterns, and Beryl could have been a direct hit. Although we had two thoughts about Beryl. Either it was going to go in south of us near Tampico or go north of us toward Houston. So if you looked at the window, and the Hurricane Center is the same way. They're seeing here and here. Okay, those are our two options. So, but they can't forecast here, because if they forecast here and it goes there, that was a terrible forecast. They forecast there and it goes there, that was a terrible forecast. And they're not sure. The good models suggesting both things. So what they do is they put the point in the middle. They take a blend of the models, and that middle point happened to be right on top of us.
The line.
So that midpoint of that cone was on top of us, even though the feeling was pretty strong. It was going to be either here or here, top or bottom, and it ended up on the top. It ended up going to Houston. But we were in the window, we were in that cone, and that cone is just a explanation of the uncertainty, basically, and it's probably the least likely place to be is in the center of the cone. And that's for any storm. 5 days out, that center point, it's not going to be there, but it'll be somewhere in the cone.
I see. Is that, do you enjoy that, like the challenge?
Oh, yeah. That's what makes the jump fun. And the difficult part is explaining the uncertainty, because we feel strongly that, it's going to do one thing or another, but not strongly enough to be certain of it. And so, we have to explain, we'll say, based on the current forecast, this is what's going to happen. But that forecast can and will change. Well, everybody misses that line. Said, you said it was going to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Said, but you missed the part that said this forecast can and will change.
Yeah.
And that line gets left out.
And it's like your words are set in stone, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's like, this is not, it's not going to hold. Could be worse, could be better, but this is a baseline for today. For 5 days out, this is the best we can do.
Okay, so then I'll ask you this then. Yeah. Is there a point, and just as like a resident of the valley, just like the rest of us, is there a point when we're looking at a tropical system coming, or even like we'll keep it to hurricanes to be specific. Sure. Is there a point that you start to get nervous, or like because okay, were you nervous about Beryl hitting us? Like,
yes.
Yes. In your mind, it was coming.
In my mind, it was a possibility. I never thought for sure it was coming, but I thought it was a reasonable possibility. Okay. We call it the reasonable worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Not the worst case, but reasonable worst case scenario was that it would come here, and go through what's called rapid intensification just before landfall. That's always a fear, and we would lose lives, we would lose homes, we would lose a lot if we had a direct hit from a rapidly intensifying hurricane that would come right up the mouth of the river. It would be devastating.
Because of our infrastructure?
Yes, infrastructure, and we have an abundance of poorly built homes in the valley. You look at what happened in Laguna Heights last May, a year ago, when a 200-yard wide tornado was on the ground for 2 minutes, and it killed one person, injured several others, destroyed a bunch of homes. If that tornado had gone through North McAllen, you would have noticed, but it wouldn't have done any kind of damage like that. But the homes that were destroyed were, substandard, if you will, not built to code. Not that the code is very good, in the valley, but
Well, that just speaks more to like if it didn't even meet that benchmark, right?
exactly
That standard.
you know it was a very small, very short-lived tornado, but happened to go over an area that you know again is not built up to standard, up to code.
Yeah.
And imagine what something that has hurricane force winds going out 50 miles, and instead of 200 yards, it's 50 miles. Instead of lasting for 2 minutes, it lasts for 4 hours. What that would do, you know, what kind of damage that would cause, and what kind of lives it would take. And we've not really seen anything like that since Allen, and we just haven't. And our day will come, and so I worry about that. And I think the people that live in places like that understand. They have a remarkable understanding, and they know they need to get out. They need to go to a shelter somewhere because they understand. Especially after we were in the Heights last year, they said, we had trouble with this. Imagine a hurricane. Let's get to someplace safe, which might be a gymnasium in Los Fresnos. Who knows where that is? There's a dome in Los Fresnos, which is a shelter. So maybe that's where they're going to go. So hopefully everybody listens and gets out at places like that. But there's an abundance of that type of construction all over the valley, and a lot of it's within 20 miles of the coast, and that's what scares me. That keeps me awake at night. And the Laguna Heights tornado was classic. We're on the air talking about it, and I was scared to death that we were going to lose people just because it was 4 o'clock in the morning. It was a confirmed tornado in a place where homes are built like that, and you just know it's going to be bad. You just know it's going to be bad, and you multiply that times 100 to get to hurricane. It's like So I do get nervous, but that's what I get nervous about. I don't get nervous about what's going to happen to me. I mean, I'm in a studio 75 miles inland. I'll probably be okay. My house is in Edinburgh. My house will probably be okay. But for those people that live, neighborhoods like that near the coast, it may not be okay.
I'm gonna put us the valley on the hot seat here.
Okay.
And Tim's not the bad guy, guys. First of all, but I want to ask you: do we listen? Like in your experience?
I think so overall. There are, you're always going to have, whether you're in the valley or you're in Louisiana, that's been hit many times recently. There are people who just say, nope, I wrote out the last one, I'm going to write out this one. There are always those people. And that's a small percentage, but those are the people who don't survive. Even last year in Ian, 2 years ago in Ian in Florida, Fort Myers, the people who didn't survive were people who lived on the barrier island. When they said, we as a community said, there's going to be, a 12 to 15 foot storm surge, which means, your house, if it's on the beach, is going to have 12 to 15 feet of water in it. I've been through all the storms here, I'll be fine. And they were not. Clearly they were not. And that's how people died, because they didn't get out. And there's always that group of people, and that's the case here too. But I think most people do listen. I think we're pretty typical that most people do listen.
That's good. That's good.
There's always a few who won't.
Yeah, that's everywhere though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not. We're not any. I don't think we're any different in that respect than anywhere else. I think people here listen pretty well. We don't react like Louisiana does, because Louisiana's been hit a few times recently.
Yeah.
And those people, they see a wave in the ocean. Let's get out of here. For the most part. But there's still that 10% who say, yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to ride it out. And that usually.
It's always going to be that way though, right?
Yeah.
Like, even with like a major.
Yeah.
Major. You know what? I was thinking. I think it's safe to say that you were probably the most responsible for us knowing where we live on the map. But I want to ask you: do you know where that started? Was there a specific person?
Oh, absolutely.
It was a Mercedes thing, right?
Well, it was during Hurricane Hannah. It was 11 o'clock on Friday night, and we were we've been on nonstop for a long time. And I don't know if we were on air or just on Facebook. We might have just been on Facebook. I don't remember. But we're just talking about the storm. And every time we go on Facebook Live, we watch the comments and try to read as many as we can. And we started joking internally before we were on air about how, do you ever notice every time we go on Facebook Live, no matter what we say, first question we get is, what about Brownsville? Always, what about Brownsville? We could say there's a tornado in Roma moving west toward Falcon Lake, and somebody says, what about Brownsville? It's like, well, if you know where you are, Brownsville's here, Roma's here, and Falcon, so it's going this way, you're over here, you're probably okay, But if it's in Los Fresnos moving south, then what about Brownsville is a very valid question. Yeah, it's coming toward you, if you know where you are on the map. So internally, we would joke about that. It's like, watch, first question is going to be what about Brownsville? And sure enough, bing, up comes what about Brownsville? And so we started kind of talking about that on the air. We've been on the air for hours. So you talk about anything at that point, you know. And the questions that were coming up were, what about Mercedes? What about Mission? What about Santa Rosa? What about and the first question is always, what about Brownsville, which is a marketing lesson. Is that if we always get the question, what about Brownsville? We should probably talk about Brownsville. So, because it's the biggest city in the valley, people are watching. So even if there's a tornado in Roma going toward Falcon Lake, one of the first things you say, by the way, Brownsville, you're okay. Just say it.
Putting that out there.
Just say it. It takes 3 seconds to say that.
And you do that now.
So now just say it. You know, by the way, Brownsville, you're all right on this. Or Brownsville, pay attention. You know, whatever it may be. And in that night after Hannah, during Hannah, we just started talking about it. I just started talking about it, talking about maps and how you need to, you know, here. Remember we used to have paper maps, you know, and now we can't get anywhere unless we've got our Google Maps. They'll take us from door to door. And so we just kind of went up, talked about it for a while.
And then took off.
And then somebody clipped it and posted it. Somebody, you know, I don't know who did it. That I don't know. But I got it pretty quickly. Once something shows up like that, a meme or a clip like that, everybody sends it to me, you know, so I see it pretty quickly. But I've never shared it, you know. But I have that clip now, and I use it when I go do presentations. I say, you know, if you've heard the phrase, what about Mission, what about Mercedes, this is where it comes from. And I'll carry a map with me and say, and, you know, do you know where you are, you know? And so.
That's a famous thing. Do you know where you are in the map?
Yeah, but that's been 4 years ago.
Wow.
4 years ago, and it's still, every time something comes up, that comes out. And the questions, but what I want to know is, what about Mercedes? You read the Facebook.
I saw that too. Yeah. I saw that getting ready for Barrel, actually. Like, I know after Barrel, like, there was we did get some rain, like around the valley, but somebody put about and it was pinned, like somebody pinned it. It was so funny.
And you know, and for the first 3.5 years, it was pretty funny, and it still is, you know. But and what all I ask, and we talked about this before we started recording, is that when the weather gets serious, let's talk about what's happening right now. You know, let's drop that. When the weather's serious, let's be serious. When we're just on there having a good time, then have at it. You know, do what you want. But I don't care. It doesn't bother me any. But when the weather gets serious, please stop that so that we can actually see the comments and the questions that are real, because it could be life-saving information. If somebody literally, if I say there's a tornado in West Fresno headed toward Brownsville, and somebody said, well, I live on the east side of Brownsville, am I safe? Like, I can answer that question. But if I've got 25, what about Mercedes? I'll never see the question.
And that probably has happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry for laughing, but it's just,
no, it's true.
I'm just thinking about the people, and it's horrible because it's I can see both sides of sides of it, right? Like how it's funny, but I mean, if there's a hurricane like that or a tornado, like that's, I mean, you're working like this, you're trying to like alert people like to life saving or like
right,
life threatening stuff.
So if we can't see the question because of all the whatabouts, you know, and you know, there were always whatabouts, but now because of that, there's a lot of whatabouts. You know? And
we needed to hear that. that.
And most of the time, I don't care. It's fine. You know, it makes you feel better that you wrote that. So be it. You know, but during severe weather, let's not. Let's let the serious stuff get through.
Okay, and before we wrap things up, I want to ask you, just so that we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
Tell us some of your hobbies. What does Tim Smith do when he's not on the air?
Podcasts.
Okay. My ears are just shut up. You got me there.
Your podcast. Yeah. No, I play golf. I'm terrible at it, but I love it. I would say, you know, I play golf, but I'm not a golfer. You know, a golfer's good. I play golf. I'm not good. You know, I ride my bike, but I'm not a cyclist. Cyclist is a serious bike rider. So I ride my bike. I love riding my bike, but I'm not a cyclist. You know, I've got the gear, but I don't look like a cyclist. I don't feel like a cyclist. You know, I ride for fun, and I'm not serious about it.
I see what you mean. Like, you want to be a poser.
Right.
You enjoy it. Yeah.
You know, when I'm home, I play the piano, but I'm not a pianist.
Do you?
You know, I play the piano, but I don't like. Andrew Chung is a pianist. Andrew Chung is amazing. I mean, he is amazing. You know, but I'm not a pianist. I play the piano for fun. You know.
But you can play.
Yeah, I'm a Spurs fan. I don't have I've got a partial season ticket, not the whole season. You know, I can't go to 42 games in San Antonio. But I go to 10. I grew up in Indiana, so I'm an Indianapolis 500 fan. I go every year.
Do you?
I've been to 45 out of the last 50 Indy 500s.
Wow.
I started going in 1975 and have been to most of them since then. IndyCar is AJ Foyt, you know, the classic names like AJ Foyt, and now it's Helio Castroneves, names like that. Rick Mears was a big driver for IndyCar. So yeah, I've been going since.
You witnessed all of the history of it. That's cool.
Sure. So I've been to. There's been 108 races. I've been to 45 of them.
Wow.
Which is, they go back to 1909. So I've been to most of them.
So then you can say you are, because you said like you're not a cyclist, you're not a pianist,
but I am an Indy 500 fan.
Yeah.
Yes. And more an Indy 500 fan than a racing fan. There's Indy 500 is one race in a series of races for IndyCar, and I watch all of them. But more than a race fan, I'm an Indy 500 fan. And if you go once, you'll understand that, because there's 350,000 people. You get there at 6:30 in the morning. The race isn't until afternoon, and you're there just taking it in. There's just so much that happens. It's so cool.
The experience.
So yes.
Tailgating, basically.
Yeah, and you can take your ice chest into the track. You can take your food and beverages into the track, which you can't do at a football game.
Yeah.
You can take your ice chest in with you. There's a limit in how big it can be, and you can't take glass. But you can take your own beer in. You can take your own food, whatever you want. That's all allowed. You can be there so long that they figure you can be there for 12 hours probably.
Yeah, is that the once a year thing you're talking
That's why
about?
I go to Indiana every May.
Every year?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Memorial
awesome.
Day weekend.
Okay, so were you there? Oh,
I was just there.
Yeah.
Like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, you would have been out there.
Yeah.
Wow,
Absolutely.
and you don't miss that one.
No, my son had the audacity to graduate from high school on race day, so I had to make a choice. And I said, well, I know there's going to be great video of the graduation, so I went to the graduation.
Yeah.
But I watched the race on TV, recorded it and watched it later.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's as close as you can get, right? Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Type deal.
But so I've missed over the last 50 years. I've missed I think 5 races, and for reasons like that. My first year here, I couldn't afford to go. I'd been to the Valley 6 months and couldn't afford the flight home and everything. But with it, at that point, I was a cub reporter making nothing, so I didn't go home the first year. But I missed it so much that the next year I made it happen.
Okay, and I have one more question for
Sure.
you. Has there ever been like a biggest blooper or anything that has happened to you, whether on air or off air, but anything that you can think about? I mean, in the 42 and a half consecutively.
No, they've all been perfect.
Yeah,
The
right.
podcast has been perfect. What are you talking about? It is funny because one of the things in this business, just like what you do here, if you make a mistake, you try to make it look like it was not a mistake. You try to cover it up. If something goes wrong, you just keep going. And there have been a lot of times when something's gone sideways, but to me, the mark of a true professional is how you cover it up and make it look like that's where we meant to go over this way. We meant to make that happen. And that's hard.
But it's happened.
But I feel like, and so a blooper can go really wrong. But if you're live on TV, I've never,
Never messed up.
I've messed up, but
not obviously.
Not to the point where it's gone viral. Now if you mess up, it's going to go viral. And there's been nothing like that. Knock on wood. One of the funniest things was I used to do something called Tim's Terrace, which was an outdoor weather set. I did the weather outside every day. On Fridays we'd have a barbecue. A different restaurant or something would come and they'd cook out for us. And whatever they cooked out, they had to give us the recipe. And we had a cookbook. On holidays we'd be out there, and this goes back to the days of when Letty was anchoring, Letty Garza, Valadez Garza, and the co-anchor at that time, it was a holiday, was Ted Garcia. It was the 4th of July. Ted's in San Diego now. And they were co-anchoring. I was doing the weather outside, and they decided during the weathercast to come sit outside. We had one of those white tables with the PVC pipe chairs, and so they came out, and while I'm doing weather, first they walk right across the front. I'm doing weather, and they walk right in front of me.
Live?
Yeah, which you don't do, but they're just, we're going to go outside and sit down at the table with them, So I'm doing the chroma key weather. We had a chroma key screen outside. So I'm doing the weather. They walk right through the shot, so I kind of start laughing. They go and they sit down in the chairs, and they're those PVC pipe chairs that they're squeaky, where the joints squeak. When Ted sat down, the chair collapsed. It just and so you hear this loud creaking squeak, and then I look over, and Ted's on the ground, his butt's on the ground, his feet are in the air. He's wearing blue jeans and tennis shoes, which is, now you can get away with that. This is 30 years ago. You couldn't. 25 years ago, you couldn't get away with that. But he's wearing jeans and tennis shoes. It's a holiday. So I just stopped what I was doing and said, let's take the other camera. Look over here.
That was on screen.
That was live, yeah. So Ted's laying on. You didn't see him, but you heard it. You heard that noise that those chairs make anyway when you sit down, and he sat down and it just collapsed. Took the other camera and he's laying on the ground and needs Letty to help him get up,
So no one would have even seen that. You're like, you know what? You have to stop
gotta see that. Yeah, just take the other camera. Look at this, and And it was a funny moment. Ted's a great guy. I just talked to him the other day. He's in San Diego doing radio now.
Oh, nice.
And he called, and we actually talked on the radio in San Diego last week about Barrel.
Oh,
so
really?
I was on the radio with him out there for a real quick interview. So yeah,
That's cool.
Ted's a great guy. Ted's been in movies. Go
Really?
to IMDb and look for Ted Garcia. And he was our anchor, weekend anchor for a long time, 5 o'clock anchor. For
What period was this? What time? Like what year was this?
Oh gosh, I'm going to say 25 years ago. I'm kind of guessing at that. I did just look it up recently because somebody was asking about it.
About that, like
Yeah,
the
about when
falling.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean like
about when he was here
okay.
and everything. But that I'm going to guess 25 years ago. That's just a guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you go to IMDb, it'll or LinkedIn, find him on LinkedIn,
Yeah, yeah.
it'll say when he was here.
Okay,
But
cool.
Ted's a great guy. Ted's a super guy.
But you've never slipped or anything, or like.
No, we used to have our chroma key wall at one time was a ramp that you could walk on. The ramp was green. You'd ramp up and then the big green screen, so you could walk up into the maps.
Oh, cool.
So actually walk on the map. The camera was real wide, and so you could. And we had maps that were kind of laid down, so you could actually walk up onto the map, which was really cool.
For the effect.
Yeah, make it look like or if you walk into a cloud, it looks so weird.
Yeah.
So you had to really be careful when you used it. So it was a ramp that went up, and of course on the edge of that ramp, it was just a drop off back down to the ramp's up, and the side of the ramp it cuts off, and we had this white plastic chain that we would put around that to keep people off of it because footprints would make it dirty, didn't key well, so we'd have this white plastic chain just to rope it off basically when we're not doing weather, and the photographers, the camera operators would just right for weather they'd take that chain down and just drop it. Just to get it out of the way. And one time stepping off of the green screen, I stepped on that white plastic chain, and it's like stepping on marbles. And, now I'm off camera, but I'm doing everything I can to keep from falling flat on my face because it's like stepping on marbles. Feet are going everywhere, arms are going everywhere, just off camera. And trying not to let anybody know what's going on. So you're trying not to make stupid noises because you're about to fall down.
Yeah.
And somehow I got my footing back and didn't fall, but came very close. But just off camera, fortunately. So
In the middle of the live.
during a weathercast,
Yeah.
So you just keep talking. That's always the trick is just keep talking. Don't stop.
Oh, you were talking.
I was talking. Yeah, I was on the.
So you were like stumbling and talking.
Here's the 7-day forecast. Take a look at the next few days, and as I step off to get out of the camera, I step on that chain, and sunny skies, and trying to keep my footing.
You didn't mention it, like you did.
No. Again, trying to make it look like
That's awesome.
because I was off camera.
Yeah.
I just stepped off camera. But that like I said, it's like radio. Just keep talking.
Yeah.
And if you can make it look like it's what you meant to happen, then you succeeded. And stuff like that happens all the time. You
That's
just
cool.
keep going. And you'd be on the air talking, and a row of chairs stacked against the wall that's happened where they fall right in the middle of the weathercast and make this god awful racket. And you can either if you can think of something fast enough about what the racket is, it's funny, you can do it. Otherwise, just ignore it. Because most people have no clue what it was. If you don't draw attention to it, it goes away. If you draw attention to it, then it becomes a thing. So more often than not, just don't draw attention to something that went wrong.
Okay.
Just cover it. And
Keep
don't
it
draw
professional.
attention. Yeah.
What I didn't do is I didn't look up like Channel 5 bloopers, but I don't remember any. Is there really?
Yeah, you can look that up on YouTube. There's a few over the years. One time, Letty was doing a news brief, like a 45-second update in the newsroom. We did like at 9:30 every night, and you kind of sit on a desk. The camera's pointing into this is our old newsroom a long time ago, and Bud Rowland happened to be there at the time. Bud Rowland did a Saturday night theater, and he was a fisherman, and he was there shooting his segment or something, and his dog was with him. I believe the dog's name was Coco. And while Letty was doing the update, Coco runs and jumps up onto the desk and starts licking her in the face.
Oh my god!
While she's doing the update, and she knew it was Coco. It's like, oh, this is Coco. And everybody knows Coco because he was famous with Bud Rowland.
By the way, say hi to Coco.
Bud's over here somewhere. So that's happened.
Oh man. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get mad at the dog though. So.
No, it was funny. So stuff like that does happen.
We'll look it up.
I don't know if that's on there. There's some that I probably shouldn't talk about, but if you look them up there,
Okay.
some that will get me in trouble for talking about.
Yeah. Not with Tim Smith though. So.
Well, maybe, but most of them involve other people. Let's just put it.
No, I meant like not involved. Like the video was not. The shot was not. Tim
More
Smith.
often than not, yes.
Yeah. It's probably Alan Shoemaker. Hi, Alan.
Yeah. Alan's great. And he's the quickest witted person in the newsroom when he was there.
I believe it.
And so when something would happen, he'd have some, and he could get away with saying stuff that nobody else could. Because, well, it's just Alan,
Funny
if
guy.
I said the thing he said, I'd get fired. But he could say it, and it's just Alan.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah, so it's just, and he's great. He's, great sense of humor, and very quick. And
Shout out to Alan Shoemaker.
Absolutely.
Miss you.
And
Miss you a lot. Yeah, in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Climbing those mountains apparently.
Yeah,
right?
apparently,
So
yeah. Works at KOB out there, so a lot of former Channel 5 people out there right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to check that station out then.
Yeah.
Well, this is something that that had been highly requested. One second, guys. My wife is asking me something.
No, one more question.
Does he ever get recognized in stores or in public?
All right. Yeah. So I actually have one that people wanted to know. As far as like rating your celebrity status, do you get like a lot of like you get recognized a lot? Do you get like asked for autographs or anything? Pictures?
Autographs are gone, but selfies every day.
All the time.
Every day, yeah.
You have to plan for that.
Well, if I'm in a hurry, I go to the grocery store at 7:30 in the morning or 10:30 at night. If I'm in a hurry, because it's going to take longer than normal otherwise. But it's okay. I mean, it's a good thing. It's flattering. If somebody wants a picture, it's like, oh, that's because you know what I do for a living. And there's a fine balance in this business of understanding that people want that, not because they know me and they want it. They don't know me. I don't know them. We're not like best friends or anything. But it's because of what I do for a living. And so, I just happen, my job, it's just like anybody else's job, mine just happens to be on television. And so, and my wife is amazing about, whoever it is, asks for a photo. She'll say, well, give me a camera, I'll take it from you. And she's great about that. And her friends say, how can you let him take a picture with that pretty girl? He says, did you see the last person that asked? The last one was not a pretty girl. The last one was some guy that, dude,
Yeah.
It's not that, that we're gonna take the picture and that's the last time we'll see each other.
Yeah.
It's not like they want to, get to know me. That's not it at all. They just want a picture so they can say, look who I ran into.
Yeah.
Somebody who happens to do their job on television,
Yeah.
And so, but no, that happens every day, every
day.
single day. And that's fine. That's wonderful.
Well, then do you ever not get recognized? Like, have you ever gone to Walmart and the whole time, like, not a single person was staring at you?
That would be the exception. Although we were somewhere, we were on the island this weekend, and we're at a restaurant, which shall remain nameless, although it was really good. But we're ordering, we were the only ones there. And so while we're waiting for the food, there was just one person working, took our order, cooking the food. And she says, so, where are you guys from? Are you from the valley?
What?
Like, hey! And my wife's like, clearly she's not from the valley.
On the island?
Yeah.
Wow.
But clearly she's not from the valley,
Yeah, that's weird.
So that's rare enough that it stood out.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not the norm at all.
Okay.
Usually it's like, you want the locals discount, sir? Mr. Smith, would you like the locals discount? Yes, I would.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. You might as well enjoy the perks. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. Yeah, I had never thought about that, but I guess if you're gonna go like Target, you gotta make sure that your hair is nice or whatever for the selfies that you're gonna probably.
Well, there's plenty of selfies that don't look nice. I can promise you that. But no, I'm always happy to do it. I am more than happy to do it. I appreciate the fact that people. I appreciate when people. Say, can I take a picture with you? Rather than we're at a restaurant and they're at the next table over and they're like,
oh, yeah.
Just ask. I'm happy to smile for you.
I'm trying to figure out when to not bite.
Exactly.
Like,
and we see that. I see that all the time. And my wife sees it. She's better at spotting that stuff than I am. I'm oblivious to it, but she sees it all the time. Yeah. And she'll even turn around and say, would you like to take a picture?
Then you probably put them on the spot. Like,
oh, sorry.
Yeah. That's funny, man. Yeah. But but I mean, that just kind of speaks to like it's true, man. Like the Channel 5, I mean, of course, this is not like, we're not affiliated with Channel 5 or anything, but there's just a connection, man. Like, Channel 5 is one of like the faces of the valley. And that's why I said that you are too, because you're one of the faces of Channel 5. And Channel 5 is one of like it's just like, there's not the Rio Grande Valley without KRGV, like when you think about the faces. And that's cool because, I mean, it's not, just because it's a new station in the valley doesn't mean it's going to become like, as like intertwined in like the valley's legacy, you know what I mean? Like it's
right, but it's in our name, RGV, KRGV.
Yeah,
it's in our name, but we're also, and a big part of that's because we're owned by a good company that really, owns where we are. They only own 2 TV stations, which is really unusual nowadays. They own our station and the station in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and that's it.
So they focus, like,
and it's all run locally, and it's a good company, so people stick around. You know, I mean, you look at the people who've worked there over the years, names you recognize. You know, Oscar Adame worked there for 25 years. Rick Diaz worked there for 40 years. You know, Letty Garza, Kerry Zayas, Dina Garza.
Still there.
Still there, you know, so people stay. And that's the reason young people come in and don't, because there's nowhere for them to go. I'm not leaving, you know, so it's not unusual for me, a great meteorologist, to come for a few years and leave because there's nowhere to go because I'm not leaving, you know, and they,
starting quarterback is sticking around.
Exactly. We can play a lot longer than they can, you know, and, you know, Shoemaker was here 17 years, which is amazing. You know, Andrew Chung was with us for 7 years, left and came back, which is amazing in a market this size in the 70s market-wise, that people stick around. And it's because it's a good company to work for. And they embrace the valley. And John Kittleman, who's our general manager, really embraces, you know, he's been here for longer than I have, and he just embraces the valley and does the right things. And it's a good corporate partner for the community. Yeah. It's kind of like, I say Valley people are fiercely loyal. And once you're, you know, a recipient of that loyalty, you can't let it go because it means so much. And I think KRGV is one of those places that people are fiercely. Coca-Cola, you know, and I'm not you know, promoting anybody, but the Valley's a Coca-Cola place. You know, Pepsi's here, but we're a Coca-Cola place. Mm-hmm. We're a Whataburger. You know, we love Whataburger. We love HEB. It's my HEB. You know, which one's yours? You know, which one's yours? So
that's true. Yeah.
You know, so
my HEB has this.
Yes. And so we all have our HEB. We all have our Whataburger, and that's all. You know, we're fiercely loyal to them. We all are. I am too. You know?
I never thought about it that way, but that's true. The Valley is fiercely loyal. Yeah. I think we can all agree with that. That's an interesting take.
Yeah. As a craft beer drinker, that's hard. You know, I like craft beer, and it's hard to find because we're fiercely loyal to Miller Lite, Bud Light, you know, and to find craft beer can be challenging. It's changed a lot. But just as an example, you know, we're fiercely loyal to those brands, and say, well, I want to try this, you know, 5x5 local beer, but we don't have that here. Why not? Well, because we don't sell it. We sell Bud Light and Miller Lite.
The market
is so it makes sense. But we're a fiercely loyal place, and we're lucky, I think, to be the recipient of some of that loyalty over the years, and it's because of people like Rick Diaz and Letty and Carrie and Dina and, you know, people who've been there a long time and make that work.
And you know, just from the, you know, speaking for us as members of the Valley, just want to say thank you for all the things you've done for us, man. Because like, even like things like face value, like Tim's codes, that's gone a long way. The whole like fans thing, always telling us to like buy like a weather radio. Like I'm sure that there's so many of us that have stories that we did something right because Tim Smith told us to, or because we saw it on Channel 5, right? So no, just wanted to say thank you for your service to the Valley, man. Because it's like the Valley wouldn't be the Valley without you guys. Like that's just the truth. You know, it's not an opinion statement. You know, for you specifically as well, you know, like like I said, you're one of the faces of our community. So just thanks, man, for sticking around for as long as you have.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot, and it means a lot to hear that. You know, again, it's just as we talked about at the very beginning, I've just been blessed to land at a great station in a great market with great people, and you know, the rest is history, if you will. It's been fun. The station lets me do what I want to do, and you know, it's not a no holds barred kind of thing, but do what you want to do and, you know, be reasonable, and we'll let it happen. And it's been fun being part of it. It's been a fun ride. That who knows how long it's going to go, but I'll keep riding the wave as long as I can.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right, guys. Well, you heard it straight from Tim Smith. It is the aliens that stop the hurricanes from coming. Yes. Right? Mercedes is here. Brownsville is here. But anyway, it was fun, man. I can't wait for the Valley to listen to a little bit more of your story. And he likes to ride his bike, so look out for him.
Yeah, please look out for me.
Oh, literally. Yeah. I didn't like that, but yeah, watch out for him too.
Gray helmet, you know.
Yeah. Oh, gray helmet. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you later. Thanks, Tim, for being here, man.
My
really appreciate that.
Thanks for the invitation.
We'll see you. That was a weird handshake, but we'll see you probably later on tonight on the radio, on the news.
God willing, I'll be there.
Yeah. So, thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks.